Hello, everyone, and welcome to Best Meet Ever. My name is Nicole Langevin, and I'm the owner of Precision Choreography and Camps. And I'm also the co-owner of My Gym Judge and Like a Champ. I am here to bring you hopefully some motivational insight on how to basically create a season where your athletes and you are finding success at every single competition. We will be defining what success means and then finding out how to incorporate that into a plan that works for you in your gym. So let's get our screen sharing going here. When we're talking about best meet ever, what we're looking at is how do we define what it means to be better? What does it mean to get better? It doesn't mean getting a better score every time. And I think that's a common issue that that clubs run into. And I think kids especially, they get really fixated on scores. And so their definition of getting better at every meet is really based on, did I get a better score? And in reality, especially when we're talking about a window of tenths, that doesn't really mean anything. It could be a judge with a different perspective, a judge with a different eye, a lot of different factors. So when we're just having a few tenths variance, we don't want to base our success off of that. Especially during pre-championship season. It just doesn't hold water. So we want to have a big picture mentality, and we're going to shift gears from getting better to getting closer. So what I mean by that is we're going to set one big goal for the end of season, basically when we want to peak and what we want that peak to look like. And then every step along the way, we're going to work on getting closer to that goal, not getting better with our scores. So again, we're going to establish a big picture mentality, a big picture goal, and then we're going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller as far as defining our steps along the way. So here is a fun little chart that I've come up with. And I like to use this as kind of a go-to. So at any point in the season, you want to be able to go back to this and know where you are and base your decisions off of that. So I call this the year flow. And, depending on what level your athletes are, what country you're in, what state you're in, your timeline is going to be a little bit different. So this right here is based on JO 8s through 10s who will start competing maybe like a preseason meet in December, and then have their regionals around April, and then their national championships in early May. So that's what you're looking at here. So if you do want to create a chart like this, those plot points would be a little bit different, but that's what we're using here. So we're using a December beginning meet, and we are going to regionals in April and then championships in May. So if you look at the top, that's what's happening mentally. This is the intensity mentally. So if we go over to the left to the beginning of this chart, you'll see this is where regionals and championships happen. This is where the athletes, and probably you, are feeling the most mental intensity because there's a lot on the line. We got to qualify, and we're at the end of the road here, and everything we've done is leading up to this moment. So inherently, there's going to be a lot of mental intensity there, and that's okay. But if you look at the bottom there, there's an inverse relationship in what's happening physically. So physically, we're actually doing less intensity on the body. Yes, we're doing routines and we're doing numbers, but we're not wearing out the body. We're not breaking down muscle. We're not even really building muscle. We're just kind of maintaining and keeping consistent. If we've done the work leading up to this point, then we can rest assured that that's going to work. If we're doing our strength building and our endurance building prior to this point in the season, then we can just take a month or so and just focus on staying consistent and not get so caught up in trying to do everything. And then after that's over, after championships is over and we've all had a wonderful season, you can see that drop. So that drop is for everybody's sanity. We need to take a breather. Coaches need a breather, athletes need a breather, parents need a breather. So we want to drop the mental intensity down as well, and the physical even more, just for like a week or so, just to let everybody poof. And then you can see it build back up. So the physical ramps up pretty quickly looking at about, beginning of June, maybe even end of May, depending on how your season is. So physically, now that we don't have meets going, we can do tons of plyo and get sore every day and make all those physical changes now during this time. So the physical is going to ramp up pretty quickly, but we're going to let the brains and the emotions kind of chill a little bit. And this is key to longevity in general. This is going to help prevent burnout. And then you can see as we go along, the physical and the mental kind of meet up in the middle somewhere, and then they separate again. As the meets get more intense, the physical intensity is going to kind of dip a little bit. So again, you want to be able to look at this and go, okay, I'm in August, so what should I be expecting and what should I be implementing into practice based on this? This right here is the big picture. It's very broad. There's not a lot of detail to it yet, but we'll get there. And it really serves as a nice gauge, again, to just kind of make the decisions appropriately and not just in the moment we're trying to get better, but go, okay, it's September. We should be ramping up here, and we should be pulling down here. And we'll come back to this slide. All right, so our basic principles here are we are choosing the peak meet of the season. So my suggestion is that your peak meet is actually the second to last meet of the season. So let's take level 10 because it's just a little simpler to look at here. So level 10s will do their local meets or their invitationals and qualify, and then go to state championships. From state championships, hopefully qualify to regionals, and then at regionals qualify to national championships. So if you think about it, regionals really is where they need to be at their best. We're hoping that, once they're comfortable in 10, that getting to regionals is just a matter of, kind of continuing their standard progression. But regionals really is, that's the meet that, let's face it, that's the most stressful meet, right? Nationals isn't super stressful. That's the after party. We want to do great there, but we've already made it. Regionals is the place where it's kind of all on the line. So I would choose that meet. That's your second to last meet. If you're looking at kids that, level 8s, that regionals is their final competition, then state is going to be their peak meet. That's where we want to be at our best. And then we just ride that peak through the championship meet. And then, so we've got our peak meet. And then we want to figure out, what do we want that to look like? What do we want to happen? What does peaking mean? Does it mean flying higher? Does it mean sticking landings? Does it mean all of, both of those things combined? You decide what you want that peak meet to look like. I'm going to give you a case study here and an example, so don't worry. And then the meets leading up to it, we're going to look at those as just steps to get closer to our peak. And so if I know where I want to be, what steps do I need to take to get there? So we're not looking at scores, we're looking at steps. If I want to be doing this here, what do I need to do every step along the way to get there? Just like building drills up for a skill. I want that to catch up on, on the competition set by August. So you already know where you need to be, 2 months before that, 6 months before that, even a year before that. So we're taking that same mentality and applying it to our competition season. Then you're going to narrow your steps down so that there are the same amount of steps leading to your success point as there are competitions. And then you apply one step to every competition. You want to be really specific with these as well. And then create a short phrase or mantra that labels what that step is. This meet is about going for connections. This meet is about sticking landings. This meet is about incredible artistry. You're setting a specific step to each competition that when you put it all together will cause you to peak. I'm going to put this in writing. And you want to communicate this with the village. So communicating with the village means, your parents are part of the village. Your parents need to understand what the goal of every meet is so that they can be a part of celebrating success. Parents don't typically know much more than the scores that they see. So that's no fault of their own. That's what they know. So your parents, if they are riding home from a meet and little Jennifer got a 9.0 at the last meet, but then she got an 8.9 at this meet, but she did what you asked as far as the purpose of that meet, the step to success for that meet. You don't want the parent in the car working against you saying, oh, it's too bad your score went down. You want parents to know what the goal of that meet was and celebrate the success with you. So what the heck am I talking about? So let's look at a case study here. So this is a case study looking at first year level 9s. So our first year level 9s are going to try to peak at step 7. So I've given them 8 competitions, 5 local and invitationals, state championships, regionals, and then nationals or Easterns or Westerns. So they've got 8 meets all together, hoping that they qualify to nationals and knowing that they want to peak at regionals. So I've decided that I want that very first meet to be about getting out there and being aggressive, breaking through the hesitation barrier. I'm sure you guys have been to the first meet of the level 9 season, and sometimes it's a little crash city. And a lot of times that's because these kids that are first year level 9s, that's a big jump from 8. And when we're looking at things like they're going from doing a full to a 1.5 punch front, that's a big jump. And so then you put them under pressure and they tend to pull back a little bit because they want to make it. And so we want to take that out of the equation. And that very first meet, we're going to say, hey, I don't care about out of bounds. I don't even care about coming out early on a pirouette. That's a good thing. This meet is about how aggressive can you be. I want you to over rotate. I want you to just crank on that power, because we know if you start trying to stick and control, then you're slowing down. It's December or January. We don't need that yet. If you do it now, you're going to start losing height and you're going to start losing dynamics. So let's take this first meet and say, let's ignore the boundaries on the floor and let's just go big. Let's see if we can go under pressure and do the hardest skills that we've ever competed. That's a safety thing, and it's also a confidence thing. So we're sacrificing a little bit in scores, maybe, but knowing that this is for the greater good. If we get them aggressive under pressure now, then we can start honing in on the fine details and the landings and then even the stickings when it's time. But sticking too early is going to cause injuries, and again, you're going to lose height, you're going to lose dynamics. So we're going to do things like if a kid goes 1.5 front layout and rebounds out of it and maybe steps out of bounds, we're going to cheer because we know that she did what we asked. She was aggressive. Next one, start value city. So you can see I put like cute little names next to them to make it, a little more memorable to kind of brand them. So the next meet, the goal is start values. We're going to try to hit our connections. We know we can be aggressive under pressure now, which is key. So now we're going to be aggressive under pressure, and we are going to focus as a team or as a group on getting our start values. I'm still not talking about making. I'm not talking about scores. Now, in doing this, and I can tell you from experience, even with step number 1, those kids they're going to do pretty well because they're only focused on being aggressive. And then here, they're focused on getting their start values. But you're still going to end up with kids that are doing well. But even if they fall, even if they don't get a medal, you can still as a group say, we were successful because we did aggressive value, start value city, or we did aggressiveness. We've got a group mentality here where we have been successful. The next one would be hit. So now we're going to take the combination of we can be aggressive under pressure. We know how to hit our start values. Now let's try to control those landings a little bit. Now let's try to make our routines, because now we know what that means. Going in December, going in for the first time and trying to make everything, it's not going to work. We're going to lose out on these first 2 steps. So we've got to be methodical the same way that we're methodical about learning our skills. One drill, one progression at a time. And when you put it together and you're patient, then the magic happens. Then our step 4 is we're going to hit and we're going to try to stick. We're going to stick some landings. We're going to stick some acro series on beam. We're going to really focus on having some strong landings. Then we go to number 5, which is kind of fun. Number 5 it's a little bit of a dip. So I want to go back here. And if you guys can follow along on the meets here, you see meets 1 through 3, and then you see a little dip, a little divot up there for meet number 4. And that's where we're taking a mental dip. Now, knowing me, I probably have the number wrong because I updated this presentation. Yeah, so over here I have it as number 5, but still we've cranked it up, we've added intensity, and then we're gonna have a dip. And I love this meet. This meet is a meet where we know we can be aggressive, we know we can get our start values, we know we can hit, we know we can even stick in certain areas. Now we're gonna go to a meet and we're gonna go somewhere where it's very low key. We used to try to go to a meet that was a little bit outside of our county in California. So we actually go up to San Diego from Los Angeles to a friend's gym that was very low key. It was on their own equipment, not a ton of people. Again, just a very low key meet. And so this kind of gave us all a chance to exhale, but still compete. And this is where we would try something new and we would take the pressure off completely. Then we go to state, I've got this, put it all together. Regionals, this is where you should do what you do because you're peaking. We're not going to add anything. We're just going to do what we do, and then we're going to enjoy it at the final meet. So again, every choice that you make as far as a step to success is going to be applied to a competition along the way. Now, in between those competitions, we've got to make choices on how we're training, and that's what we're going to get into right now. So when you're doing your training plans in between each competition, there's different things you have to consider. What's your warm-up going to be? What are your assignment choices going to be? What is your conditioning choice going to be? And what are any supplemental choices that you need to make? So in between each competition, knowing what you're gearing up to, whether it's the meet that you're just trying to be aggressive, the meet you're trying to stick, your choices are going to connect to that. All right, quick note on artistry. Those of you that know me know that I could sit here for 3 hours and talk about artistry, but that's not what this presentation is. But I do want to just make a quick point about artistry in that oftentimes the artistry gets kind of put off until later as an extra, as kind of the cherry on top. But if you can work on artistry all year round, and make it just an expectation and a part of what you do, the same way that you do with increasing expectations on skills, it's going to take these routines from great to wow, which is what it says over here. You can get to the point where when you're getting ready for states, now let's accentuate, more nuances, little details here and there. Not, oh, state's coming up, we really got to start to perform. You should have already done that. You can always add nuance. You can always add detail, and that's really fun, but you can't do it unless you've been working on it all year. All right, so some rules before we get into these training plans are celebrate the success of each meet along the way, which is a step towards peaking, even if it means a fall. Because you're a hypocrite if you say, I want you to be aggressive, but then come down on a kid for falling or showing any sort of frustration or even addressing it in any sort of negative way. You asked them to be aggressive, they fell, whatever, it's January, let's move on. Let's take from this competition and move on. The next step again is share with the village, have a parent meeting and just say, it doesn't have to be super detailed, but hey, this first meet of the season, this is what we're looking for. You have confidence in yourself as the coach and as the coaching staff. We know this is going to work. We're going to be aggressive at this meet. You may see some out of bounds. You may even see some falls, but this is for the greater good because we want the kids to be safe and successful. You need to get the village to buy into every step along the way. And then trust in your plan. You may catch yourself getting caught up in trying to do everything at the same time. Focus on one step at a time. When you get to states and regionals and nationals, it will all come together. So trust in the process. And then recognize this is a team building thing too. Think about being in a meet and having a kid go cast pirouette and go so early that they come out and the team cheering. And people are going to go, what are they doing over there? What are we missing? It's kind of a fun thing. It's like you have a little secret, with your team. So I wrote, smile knowing that you've got the secret sauce and make them wonder what you're up to. All right, so we're going to go through this, staying consistent on all of your steps, focusing on the meet that's coming up. And so for our step one meet of being aggressive, we want to keep a mentality in our training leading up to that we want power before control. and that's a safety thing. Sticking too early leads to hesitation. It reduces height, which is up to 3/10 on saltos, and then it also affects your overall dynamics. In addition, nerves typically lead to hesitation. So by focusing on aggressiveness, we're also building confidence at the same time. So as you're getting ready for this, your meets leading up to it, you want your warm-up to, you still have time. So those warm-ups, which are huge opportunities at tackling multiple things, your warm-ups can be a little bit all over the place. You know, focusing on one day on plyo, one day your warm-up can be really heavily focused on dance, one day your warm-up can be really heavily focused on shaping. Whatever it is, you can switch up your warm-ups a lot during this time, but I would recommend starting to implement your meet warm-up, the warm-up they're actually going to do at competitions, just about one day a week. So that warm-up is something that you're going to start when you start training for season and perfect along the way. So as your kids are progressing with their routines, that meet warm-up should actually start being perfected as well. So by the time you get to the end of the season, you should see a big difference in the meet warm-up itself. For assignment notes, event warm-up should still include alternating drills and skills, even implementing low numbers of complexes, because we still want to keep bringing in the basics. It's not, okay, season's happening, just start doing routines. We still need to be maintaining our progress. Moderate numbers and training up. So, you know, November, December, even January, nothing wrong with still training up on the outside. They don't need to be doing 50 routines a day. They still need to be building and developing a really strong base. And by training up, we're giving them the perspective that what they're doing in competition is not the hardest thing that they can do. The other thing is it just continues to have an even bigger picture perspective that this season isn't the only thing. I'm training for, you know, 5 years down the road. So training up is a really powerful tool, and it does not take away from how they're going to perform in competition. If anything, it actually helps. This is also another time to incorporate endurance routines. So this is where you would do, you know, maybe floor routines with cardio down the diagonal, bar routines where you've got multiple cast handstands before doing the skills. So maybe you're doing, you know, 3 cast handstands to 3 clear hip handstands, and then, you know, 6 giants instead of 2 giants, just really building that endurance on all events. Conditioning notes, we can still be getting sore, so still building strength. And then for your plyo, this is where you go, okay, I'm getting ready for meet 1. I want them aggressive. So when we're doing our plyo and we're going over the panel mats, on, off, punch front, I want on, off, punch front, punch run out. Maybe even up onto a raised surface. Something to be still keeping it really, really specific that this is all about being aggressive. And then going into meet number 2. Okay, so we're aggressive. We don't want to lose that, but now we're going to start focusing on making sure that we're getting our connections and getting our start values. So I know I keep saying how important aggressiveness is. For level 9s, their bonus is coming from connections. So if they're not aggressive first and foremost, then, you know, they're not going to be getting their connections. That's huge. Doesn't totally mean hitting. It just means getting credit for everything and doing it in an aggressive way. So as we're getting ready for that second meet, here are some things to consider. Our warm-up is going to continue to vary, but we can start honing in on certain areas. So maybe we need a little bit of extra focus on our ankles because I'm noticing some kind of couple kids maybe rolled an ankle, maybe on beam. I'm just noticing they're not as sturdy as they could be. Just looking around and going, okay, what do we want to start? How do we want to start kind of corralling all of these warm-up ideas? Where do we want to focus based on what I'm seeing in the athletes? And then continue that meet warm-up once a week. The assignment notes, moderate numbers and training up still. Event warm-ups are still going to include alternating drills and skills and basics, but we want it to accentuate connections. So start value city is what we're getting ready for. So in my warm-up, instead of doing, let's say instead of doing stretch jumps across the beam with a finish, I'm going to make them aggressively connected stretch jumps across the beam to a jump half at the end. Just get them in the mode of connection. And then as far as conditioning, you can do this too, you know, do some conditioning where they're having to combine different things together, you know, maybe for your plyo, you're going punch, punch, punch front, straddle jump, back tuck. Just get them in that mode where we always want to keep moving and we want to keep connecting multiple things together. And now for step 3, so this meet, we want to hit. So we're going to start controlling our landings. We are not sticking, but we are controlling our landings. So if sticking is happening from some kids, which it will, and that's great, wonderful, but we're not pushing it. We're just focusing a little bit more on controlling, maybe doing some stick drills outside of our training, but working on controlling that landing, because believe it or not, it's still a little early. We could start sacrificing our height and our dynamics if we're really, really focused on the sticking. But if we can focus on controlling, getting the abs and the upper body ready and even the legs ready to take the brunt of those landings and control, but still allow a little bit of over rotation, it's going to pay off in a couple meets, I promise. So make a mental note. Try to see, you know, who's over rotating, who's just having a little foot scoot, who's actually sticking just by asking them to control. Make a mental note of that, because I'll come back to that in a second. So getting ready for step 3. We are going to do comprehensive warm-up. So now we want to start getting a little bit more consistent with what our warm-up is. So Mondays is our dance warm-up. Tuesdays is our shaping warm-up. And then Wednesday we go back to our dance warm-up. Thursday, and then we do our meet warm-up on Friday. So just getting a little more specific on each of those warm-ups and doing less variety throughout the week. Assignment notes, so these are your event assignments. We want to start building pressure, but this pressure is going to be kind of numbers based on hit routines. So what that's going to mean is kind of the way that you talk to the athletes. So maybe you get to beam and we've got an assignment of, you know, four hit routines in a row, but you've got to define what hit means, and that's going to be different for every club. 4 hit routines in a row. And if they miss routine number 3, it's okay. So at this point in the season, we want to be at a point where we can hit 4 routines in a row. So we're not quite there yet. Let's take a step back, alter the assignment, and then have them try it again, or do some drills and have them try it again. So it's never a punishment, you know, for missing the routines. It's just establishing, hey, we're at step 3. We're getting ready for the goal of the next meet, which is hit. So the way that we're going to gauge if we're ready to do that is, can we come over here and can we hit 4 in a row? Oh, you're not there yet. Let's get you there. And still a little bit of training up. Conditioning notes, we're still building strength. We're still incorporating connections into conditioning because we don't want to lose that part of what we were doing before. And some of the conditioning too can be some landing drills that are outside of the skills. All right, and step number 4. So step number 4 is hit and stick. So this, I would suggest having like your big invitational. So this is your big travel invitational. This is a big meet that feels really important. And this is where we're going to focus on hitting and sticking. So we're going to go for the stick for everybody on everything. And we're going to continue to make mental notes, because prior to this step, we were saying control your landings. But in doing that, again, you may see some kids that she always sticks her front pike. She just knows where she is. She always sticks her double back flyaway. She always sticks her vault. She just got that air awareness. Keep a mental note of that, and watch what's happening when they're going for the stick, because it's going to affect the choices that you make going into state championships. And we're going to get into that in 1 second, which is kind of one of my favorite things to talk about, is how to kind of strategically plan your landings. It is appropriate at this point to expect aggressiveness, connections made, so start value, and control. We're expecting all of that now, and that's okay. If we expected all of those things to happen at the beginning of the season, I think everybody's going to end up frustrated, but we've only expected one thing at a time. But now look, we're at meet 4 and we're going to be putting all of that together, and it's not going to be so overwhelming. So, and they're in the mentality of sticking, because we're going to make sure that everything we do up until this meet in this little training period is going to focus on sticking. So that's really the big thing. We're just adding going for the stick. Getting ready for step 4. So this is getting ready for, let's stick our landings and do all the other things that we talked about. So as you're getting ready for this meet, so this is in between meets 3 and 4, you're going to keep your comprehensive warm up all but one day, and then your meet warm up should start to be mastered and beautiful. I would say at this point you want that meet warm up happening 2 times a week. And assignment notes. So we want to do event warm up with sticking drills and side stations for sticking. So that would be, you know, they do whatever they do for their regular meet warm up for beam. I like using beam because it's such an easy example. And then they walk to the end and they either go, you know, standing full or back tuck or standing front, whatever is the kind of root skill of their dismount. And they need to stick, you know, 4 of those in a row. So that's something that's going to give them a little bit of pressure too. Like they've got to stick those in a row before they get into their routines. You're also adding that extra focus. This is our intention for this upcoming meet, is sticking. So you've got to make sure that all your decisions leading up to that meet are still kind of based around sticking. And then keeping sticking as a side station as well on all events during this phase of training. So, you know, simulating landings for vault, bars, and beam, and then also for floor doing kind of root skill landings as well. You know, even some games, you know, to incorporate, or contests for sticking. And then on conditioning, you know, we want sticking drills, mechanics would be great, and then sticking at every opportunity. So let's go back to plyo, and we're going punch front, or punch on and off the panels, punch front, stick. So just every decision you're making, reiterating the fact that this upcoming meet this is what we're focusing on. Now we're going into our dip. So I do apologize that it says 5 on the side and 4 on the chart, but we are on step number 5 now, and this is our dip, because you can see how we've built our intensity leading up to this, both physically and mentally. We've kind of, you know, the mental is dipping down a little bit, but we have been building with the intensity of these meets, and now it's time to take a second. So step 5 meet, we're just calling it no harm, no foul. This is where we're gonna go. Let's go, just do your thing. So small meet, no pressure, kind of a trial run. You need to take it down a notch. Think of this as the calm before the storm. Try something new, you as well. So this is a very interesting thing I like to share with coaches. When you go to this meet, this is an opportunity for you to try something different. So you may have a kid that, like, before bars, and she does well, and you tend to put your hands on her shoulders, and you give her a couple things to think about. You have her take a breath. You got this. And then you go and you stand on the right side, and she does her routine, and it goes well. Now, if that works, the tendency is, well, then that's how I coach her. That's how she's coached at meets. But maybe she would do even better if you tried something different. And I wouldn't want to try something different that's been working at state championships or at a big invitational. You want to do what you know works. So this is a great meet to say, what if I try something different? What if before her bar routine, I tap her on the shoulder real quick and say, hey, see you on the other side, and walk away and stand on the left. And just see what happens. It'll give you a little, you know, perspective of, okay, you know, the side of the bar I stand on doesn't really affect her, you know, her performance. But also you may find out something about your athlete. You may find out that she responds great to that. And that's the approach that you want to use. You may find out that it doesn't work, but it's not going to make a huge difference anyway, but it may be just enough to find something out about yourself and your athlete that could benefit them as you go into state championships. So that's one of my favorite things about this meet is trying that different perspective with the kids, taking that pressure off and just seeing who it works with. Some kids need that, and that's good to find out too. This also kind of reiterates your trust in them. When you kind of pull back and keep it low key and just hey, do your thing. It gives them confidence, or shares with them that you have confidence in them, which is very empowering. In this meet, we are also staying aggressive, going for connections and getting our start values, having control, and sticking our landings. We're expecting all the same stuff. So I haven't added anything for this meet. All I've done is ask them to do all the same things together again, and tried a different approach in my coaching, trying to relax a little bit, taking the stress off. This could be a chance too, if you always wondered, hey, I've got a kid who does a Rudy. She does it pretty well, but I wonder if she just did a really big full. What's that going to look like? This is a chance to maybe try that out too, and see what happens. So as you're getting ready for this meet, this is a point in the season where you want to be doing that meet warm up like 2-3 times a week, depending how much they practice. And the other days would be more of a comprehensive warm up. For assignments, pressure set with prerequisite. So not a score, because I can tell you I'm a judge and I'm telling you, don't get too caught up in scores. You can get caught up in ranking for sure, but that's going to be per meet, not from one meet to the other. So if you're, in the gym trying to find a prerequisite, I would encourage you not to base it on, okay, you need to get a 9.4 or above, and then that will affect your assignment. But let's go more on, we need to, maybe you have a kid who's got issues with her switch leap or back legs, tends to be a little bent sometimes. So for your pressure set, Emma, we need back leg tight on the leap. And then we need, aggressive connections, stuck landing, stuck dismount. So you're applying specific attainable things to each athlete for their pressure set that they need to progress. So it's not necessarily a straight across the board. And then the resulting numbers of routines that they need to do after is based on what they need, not a punishment for not making it. So for Emma, if she goes and her back leg was bent on the switch leap, I'm going to say, hey, you know what? We're not quite there yet where we can just bust out a first routine with the back leg straight. Let's go get some drills done over there. And then, let's do another pressure set, but your numbers are going to be this instead of this, because that's what you need. Once those assignments are completed, start giving them choices here. Artistry enhancements is a nice thing to give them, where maybe they just have 3-4 minutes left at the end of beam, and you can say, hey, just play with your choreography for a couple minutes. You're going to get nice things from them, and they're going to start taking ownership of their routine. So at this point in the season, that would be a nice thing to do. And also giving them choices, especially with these athletes that are like level 9s and 10s. What do you need? Well, I feel like I was always crooked on my back tuck. Like I pulled it in, but it was crooked. Maybe I need to go, do some whatever drills, or, my turn feels off today. Can I go over in front of the mirror and just, see what's going on with my posture? Those are the kind of things you want to be hearing from your athletes at this point in the season. So you providing the prerequisite that's customized, giving them the assignment, they do their job, and then ask them back, what do you need? Accountability is huge when it comes to consistent performances. Conditioning notes, we're gearing up here, getting kind of close to our peak meet. So we're going to be hitting every muscle group, and then just once a week doing an intense, getting sore workout. All the other days of the week, I'd recommend just hitting and maintaining every muscle group. All right, so now we've got state championships. So for state championships, we're going to have a mentality of, I've got this. So our training choices and our choices during practice, everything that we do needs to be focused on this, I've got this. Whether it's you telling the kids, you've got this, or asking to hear from them, I've got this, but we're putting it all together, and they need to know that they can. So our warm-up notes, we're going to do meet warm-up every single day, and then allow 1 day a week to do a warm-up that is either specialized. So if the kids are having aches in a certain area, maybe it's an injury prevention towards that. Maybe they're still, you're not super happy with leaps. So maybe the warm-up is a little bit geared towards that. So a specialized or a comprehensive warm-up 1 day, and then meet warm up all of the other days. If you've done your job, and if you've had your focus and focused on every phase and every step along the way, it's not scary to try not to do everything at once at this point. You should feel good about it here. Your assignment notes are pressure set. And this is where you want to be bringing in audiences and also having your prerequisites. So, and you can see the examples here are the same of, you know, it's what you need, not a punishment or a reward. But the audience thing is interesting. This is where you're bringing in pressure from the outside a little bit more. And it could be as simple as asking a rec class, hey, can you guys come watch, you know, Jenny do her beam routine or Susie do her bar routine. A bar routine is what, 10 seconds long, 12 seconds long. A beam routine is a minute plus, whatever. I can't imagine a class being upset or a coach being upset by taking 30 seconds or a minute to come watch a routine. I'm not saying come sit and watch the whole team, but just, hey, can you guys watch so-and-so do a routine? Obviously talk to the coach before class and tell her that that's the plan, or talk to them about that. But this is a really nice thing because, one, it gives pressure to the kid doing the routine. Even though it's just a bunch of little kids, they will feel that, trust me, they will feel that pressure. The second thing is, how cool is that for those kids to be able to come over and watch what they're always trying to watch while they're doing their class anyway? Give them that opportunity to watch and maybe talk to them about what they're looking at. You know, have them maybe ask questions or give them an opportunity to, you know, meet the gymnast and say, oh, how long have you been training? And it'll inspire them. It doesn't take a lot of time out, and it really makes everybody in the gym a part of the village. So that's just a kind of quick recommendation. For floor landing drills as side stations. All right, so landing drills. So as we have watched the athletes develop control after being aggressive, and then also try to stick, some of them are going to be able to stick and some are not. And that's okay. At this point in the season, you've done all you can do. It is what it is, right? So you may have a kid that, you know, her double full is great, but when she goes for the stick, she drops her chest a little bit, or no matter what, her foot scoots every single time. Whatever it is, if you know for a fact that that kid going for a stick is going to cause more deductions than her taking a step, then you make a calculated choice to say, okay, I want your chest up. I know your foot's going to move, so let's choreograph it. Same thing with front tumbling as well. You know, some kids can just do it 90% of the time, well, then that's in their routine. You have a choreographed stick in your routine. But some kids, it may not work. You may be sacrificing because if they try to stick, they're going to end up taking a step and then trying to pull it back, and it just adds up and adds up. So these are just a way to train some calculated landings. So they're not sticks. They are choices of taking a step that maybe we can recover a little bit of our deduction. So an actual step is a tenth or a hop. And if it's large, it's 2. If they take the big step and then step close, well, then you get another tenth for that step. So what we're going for here is maybe we can just cut our losses and go for a half a tenth. So it's a controlled step. So right here, she's starting up on her panel mat. Oh, she's holding her finished position. She's starting on her panel, double full, boom. The second her feet make contact, she's training her body, boom. And if you notice, she's got open shoulders, extension through her fingertips. Her front foot is turned out. Her chin is up. She's got nice posture. Those are all things that affect score in non-value parts. So I'm taking actually an opportunity here of, yeah, maybe it's not a true stick, but if she knows when her feet make contact, she's hitting this position, it's no longer an out of control thing. It could be perceived as a controlled step and maybe nothing, but it probably isn't going to get more than a half for not being a true stick. And I've taken the opportunity to showcase posture, footwork, flexibility, and artistry, which all add up to 8/10 in non-value part deductions throughout the routine. So this is a great opportunity of making lemonade. Here's our one for going forward. So she's going to solidify the position there, foot turned out, posture, fingertips, and hit it every single time exactly the same. You can even have them close their eyes a little bit as they hop off. And you notice there's no hesitation. The feet make contact and hit it. Choreographed choice. So you saw those landing drills that we did. So this would be a nice thing to have on the side as you're doing your floor workout. And then conditioning notes, just hit each muscle group and move on. Just, that's it. No getting sore. We're just going to keep everything maintained and move on. All right. Now we've got our last meet, our to peak, which is regionals. And this is where we want to do what you do. So it's very similar to where we were with state championships. It's just that state championships was the first time that we really put everything together, including the choices that we made in our dip meet. So now that we've done that and proven we can do it, now we go to regionals and we're expecting it. So this is your peak meet. You want to keep bringing in audience as much as possible during practice. I know that's hard right now with what's going on, but let's pretend in a perfect world there's no more COVID and we can not worry about capacity. But yeah, opportunity. Go get the person that works the office desk and say, hey, can you go in and come and just cheer for so-and-so, just so something feels different. So getting ready for step 7. So we're doing meet warm up every single day. This is getting ready for state championships. When we go to the events, we're doing quick warm-ups, whether it's timed warm-ups like at a meet or just kind of touching the event, and doing your 30-second. But we're reiterating by doing this that, hey, just do what you do. You've already done all the maintenance. You've already developed your consistency. You already know what you're doing. Just do it. The pressure prerequisite, which is where you define what needs to happen in that pressure set to then decide how many routines they need to do, will have detail work afterward as part of it. So hit your routines, and now I want you to go through and just fine tune your choreography, have fun with it. Continue landing drills as side stations. And then the empowerment. What do you need? I've already given you everything I have for the last few months for all of these meets. What do you need now? That's empowerment. Conditioning notes, same thing. We're just hitting each muscle group and moving on. Again, bring in any and all audience as much as possible. And then we've got nationals or Easterns or Westerns, because we're going to follow this methodical plan. And so we're all going. Somehow we're all going to nationals. So we're going to stick with our last plan, and we're going to increase the empowerment, and we're going to decrease outside pressure. So if they've come this far, the internal pressure is there. We've put the outside pressure on them. They've shown that they can handle it. They've learned how to handle it. So it's not as important to be doing that right now. You can do it every once in a while, but it's no longer a tool. Now it's just about you doing your gymnastics. So we're going to do our meet warm up every day. We're going to keep doing our landing drills, whatever we've decided, whether it's a stick or those calculated choices. Any audience periodically, but not all the time anymore. Quick warm-ups to reiterate, just do what you do, and send the message before nationals, Westerns, Easterns, whichever one you're doing, that we're already proud of you. Their brain, their internal pressure is going to continue, even though the reality is you already made it. So they need to go enjoy this. They need to go and realize that there's not a bunch of people, waiting to see how they're going to do. We are already powerful. We are already proud of you. And that's powerful. They can go into that meet and already feel like, hey, I've arrived. And that sort of composure and confidence and feeling like you're backed by your people, that's what's going to make a great performance happen. So I just want to touch on off season a little bit, and that is to kind of still be on even when you're off, so that you can really be on later. And so I will explain that. So going back to our chart, you can see, once you hit summertime, it can be kind of easy to feel like the meets are really far away. But they're never that far away. I mean, every single one of us has experienced and probably continues to experience that feeling of like, oh, shoot, what happened? We already got, I thought she was going to have this by then. I thought we had so much time, and now there's a meet coming up and we're still on drills, and it does kind of sneak up on you sometimes. So it's really important to try to, even though you want to relax the brain during this off time, it's important to just maintain the reality that that season is coming up again. So, you know, things like in the off season when the kids are lining up before practice or lining up between events, discuss the season a little bit, you know, discuss, hey, you know, what did it look like at that meet? You know, that red wall at whatever gym, you know, just things to kind of trigger like that. Those places still exist. Those meets are still waiting for you, not in a pressure filled way, but the reality is still there. So we don't get too lackadaisical. Another thing you can do is just work on the envisioning thing. So a nice thing is like maybe when they're doing conditioning and they're doing abs, have them close their eyes as they're doing abs. This is my ab workout apparently. Have them close their eyes, and as they're doing their abs, picture regionals next year. Just, what do you want that to look like? And maybe as the conditioning is intensifying a little bit and you can see they're, you know, kind of like shaking or whatever, connect that to success. Like, oh, you feel that burn? All right, feel how that's gonna get you stronger. So next year, you know, our vaults are gonna be higher, or our bars are gonna swing easier. Talk about the connection between what they're doing now and how that connects to competitive season. And then verifications as well. So having benchmarks throughout the year where, you know, whether it's they need to do a skill routine at a certain point of the year, or, you know, soft landing routines or whatever it is, but just some benchmarks throughout the year to keep that idea of season is coming and we're not going to just wait for it to come. We're going to be strategic about it, just like we were during season. We didn't just compete until state championships. We competed with a purpose. And every meet, every choice along the way got us closer to where we wanted to be. So a quick little note here on touching upon the off season is, you know, we need a couple weeks to decompress and go back to basics, and we need to fall in love with gymnastics again. Not falling in love with competition, not falling in love with winning and scores, but just falling in love with flipping again. And that's a really, really important thing. So whatever that means to you, I could do a whole other presentation just on that, but falling in love with gymnastics, that's everybody's job right after championship season. In the background, this is where your coaching staff would be, you know, looking at what are the plans for next year, choreographing their warm-ups that they're going to use for the next season, coming up with any alterations in your annual training plan. All of that stuff can be happening right now while the kids are just falling in love with gymnastics again. During the off season as well, after we fall in love with gymnastics and just kind of, we start doing assignments again and start gearing up a little bit. We, you know, we don't want to lose stuff. I mean, how often do we hear that? Oh, I had that, but I lost it. You know, I like joke with the kids, has anyone seen her flight series? Where did it go? And so, you know, this off season, don't take for granted what they have, because those things can get lost if, you know, they grow a little bit or they don't do them every day or whatever, you know, things, we can lose skills that way. So I like to call this taking your vitamins. So whatever their skills that they have competed and mastered last season, even if you're working upgrades, make sure they're doing a couple of those, because you might need to fall back on those. But it's also important to maintain those progressions for the higher level stuff. So take your vitamins, take 2 a day of everything you can already do and move on. So some final words here, perspective. Every meet is a learning experience, and it's just to practice for regionals. So keep that in mind. It's not all about getting a big score, but I'm telling you, if you follow this strategically, you're going to get the results that you want anyway. It's just a different way of looking at it. But also remember that every regionals is also a practice for next regionals. So things are going to happen. Things are out of our control. Kids are going to make mistakes. We're going to make mistakes. So, you know, it's very important that as much as we want to have everything geared up to this regional competition, our peak meet, anytime anything happens along the way that doesn't quite go according to plan, or the kids make a mistake, just say, hey, we're just getting ready for regionals. That's where it matters. But when you get there and they make a mistake, remind them, regionals is practice for next year's regionals also. And that's having a big picture mentality. So I hope that you guys found this educational. I hope it was informative. I hope it was motivational, and I hope it made sense, because I know it was a lot of information in a small amount of time. So please feel free to contact me with any questions, or if you just want to kind of talk about gymnastics, I'm always up for that. So I want to make sure that, you know, the information is clear and that you can apply it to your program. So if you need any help doing that, please, please, please don't hesitate to contact me. We are also on all social media using @PrecisionChoreo. So if you ever want to send a direct message that way, I will get it personally and get back to you. So email, website, social media. See you guys soon. Thanks.